Hey, friends. Welcome to Dishing on Divorce on WGSN-DB, Going Solo Network Radio, Podcasts, and TV. I'm your host, Lisa Lisser, CEO and founder of LZL Coaching, a boutique coaching firm focused on divorce, relationships, and life transitions. I'm also a divorced mom of 3 now grown kids, and I'm a lawyer, a current educator, a spiritual counselor, and a co-parenting coach. And my vision and my goal is to transform the divorce experience for everyone involved. As we all know, divorce comes with so many uncertainties. How will I get through this? Will I be able to support myself? Who am I anymore? And you are going through the most dysregulating experience of your life. You may not know where to turn or who to turn to. And sometimes when you feel overwhelmed, the idea of having to do it alone can feel terrifying at the same time that the idea of trying to get help and tell people what you're going through can also feel impossible. Today's guest is Madisen Rose. Madisen specializes in divorce recovery. She's been through it and she knows the fear and discomfort that accompany the divorce experience. What's special and unique about Madisen is that she is a somatic practitioner and the founder of Better Half to Whole, a platform dedicated to supporting individuals through the renegotiation of relational trauma in our nervous systems. She has one-on-one sessions, digital resources, group programs, and self-paced online courses. Madisen helps people heal their sense of self while rebuilding with intention, compassion, grit, and self-trust. Madisen is passionate about building community, supporting women, children, families, and bridging the space between the science, the somatic, and the sacred, the soul. Welcome, Madisen.
Thank you so much, Lisa. I am thrilled to be here with you today.
It's so wonderful to have you. Madisen is here because we are part of a community, and building community in the divorce world is important. Our divorce community is called the Fresh Starts Registry, and this is a space where people going through divorce can find resources that they need. And I found Madisen, so I am really grateful. So what I want to do is, Madisen, tell us how did you get into this business? Like, what's your story?
This is such a great question to begin with because people often wonder, like, how did you get into the divorce space? Because it is so personal.
Mm-hmm.
I went through a really heartbreaking divorce in 2018 and was in talk therapy for years and just didn't really find the resources that I needed to support the social and emotional experience of my life after getting divorced. There was a lot of resources that were legal and logistical, but not really social around how did I talk to my friends, how my family dynamics shifted, and like all the little things that really go unseen that you experience alone. And so that's really where I started in the divorce recovery space. And then the somatic practitioner work came later, but really addressing the foundational experience of my life and in my body through nervous system work and somatic work and experiencing it for myself. And then understanding that this work, the somatic work, will change everything.
Yeah. Well, I want to hear more about it. What I want to sort of highlight is this idea that in divorce, we think of it, it's like a one-time experience, or it's an experience that like is one thing, but what we know is it's so many things. As I was training as a divorce coach, we talked about 4 separate divorces because there's a legal divorce, the financial divorce, the emotional divorce, and the social divorce. And I felt like that's what you were just talking about. Like, how do I talk to the people in my social network? How do I retain that network? Do I want to retain that network? Are these the people who are right for me? And if it's your family, who I hope that we retain our family, but they have a totally different perspective and they have a stake in us and in the divorce, in the marriage, in whatever is part of it. So learning to navigate that can be so challenging because it's not what we thought we were going to have to do. Like, we might have understood that we got to get, financial out of the deal and that there's a legal way to get unmarried. But the social stigma and the social pieces of it are so hard and they impact us from the inside out. So that brings us to somatics. So tell us a little bit about this. What is this about?
So, somatics is used as a term that means the body. And
Okay.
so, somatics could really be used in lots of different contexts: somatic yoga, somatic meditation. You could do so many things that are quote unquote somatic if it's done in connection with the body. My training is specific to the renegotiation of trauma. So, not just noticing what's happening in the body, but with facilitated support, giving someone enough time and space and feelings of safety for the trauma or the stuck survival pattern to actually unwind. And so that's really the work that I do, is supporting people in trauma renegotiation and actually the resolution of what we could call a trigger, or a
Yeah.
painful memory that just sticks with you.
Yeah. So I'm interested in the word renegotiation, like negotiating with our bodies. Like, that's what I feel like you're saying, and renegotiating this trauma experience. So tell me more about that so that we can understand the language as we learn more about what you do.
Yes. So there's a lot of people who feel like they are broken,
Mhm,
like they need to fix their pain,
mhm,
rid themselves of their trauma. And the renegotiation term, or the trauma resolution term,
mhm,
really is meaning that we're working with the innate pattern of the body and the survival response. And
mhm,
so your body, if you've experienced a trauma, which could be anything that is too much, that happens too fast or is too soon,
mhm,
gets looped in the body. And then you move on with your life. And then if a similar experience or memory comes up that is almost like an echo of
mhm,
that traumatic experience, your body doesn't understand time in the same way as our mind. And so your body goes into the same response as if that thing is happening now.
mhm,
And so the renegotiation piece is acknowledging the response of the body, but then bringing in feelings of safety in the current moment so the body can realize, oh, I am safe now, and I don't have to hold on to this response or this survival pattern. And so that's really the renegotiation part, is saying, I see you, body. I see what's happening here. I don't have to understand why, but I can provide a safe container or a safe experience now. And it sometimes takes time for the body to believe you because there's things that have been stuck for a long time.
yeah. So what this echoes or reflects is this idea that we have a reptilian brain and we have a rational brain. And when things happen to us, and the rational brain is our prefrontal cortex, it's like this part of the brain. But when we get triggered, we blow up. And in here is our reptilian brain, our amygdala. And the amygdala tells us when we're in danger. But when the body has had similar experiences, it calls danger on things that may not actually be danger. So the renegotiation, if I'm understanding you, is the pause, the noticing where you are and what's actually going on in your environment, and then the awareness that I am not in danger at this moment. I can be safe. And in my work, I deal with that a lot. And it's more about, okay, how can I express what I'm feeling and what I need? And so that's how I do that work. But I never really thought of it in terms of like negotiating with my body. And that's what I think is so interesting. So, if our body is instinctually moving in a certain direction or based on a pattern or habit, how do you help your clients retrain themselves that we can believe that we were once in danger, but now we're no longer in danger? How do you actually do that?
So in a session, let's see. Well, why don't we just use the example of love or being lovable?
Okay.
Does that feel like a good one?
Yeah. Yeah.
So for example, in my own experience, going through divorce and questioning, will I find love again?
Okay.
And for a long time, I didn't know. It's like, I don't know if that's possible. And
Mhm.
so, where we really begin with love, as an example, would be trying to identify in your life where you have love in general, not
Okay.
necessarily specific to a romantic relationship. And in the somatic work, we are always going back to the body.
Mhm.
What is it telling you in sensation, in emotion, maybe in an image? What is the body saying? And
Okay.
so, in this example of love, if I'm questioning, will I find romantic love? That feels maybe too big because I've had such a deficit of it and had such a like traumatic experience through the divorce. So I might ask you or whoever I'm working with, is there anyone in your life that you feel unconditional love from? And
Yeah.
if you say yes, we'll explore that a little bit and be like, who is this person? When you think about being in their presence and experiencing love with them, where do you notice that in the body?
Mhm.
And then stretching it out over time, giving it maybe a color, giving it a sensation, or just paying attention to whatever comes up and getting really familiar with what love as a general concept feels like in the body. And then over time, getting more and more familiar, building more and more of those neural pathways and level of comfort and familiarity with love, so that when you do feel ready to date again or do feel open to the possibility of love with a romantic partner, that you already know what love feels like in the body. And then it translates to another relationship.
That's really powerful because, there's love is a feeling, love is a verb, love is an action. Like if you're showing love, you need to do love. But if love is a status, does my body feel like when I'm in the status of feeling love? That's a whole nother dynamic. And that's what it sounds like you're helping people gain access to.
Yes. And it takes practice. And
Yeah.
we can do it with anything. It can be with a sense of belonging, it could be with grief, it could be with connection, it could be with money, it could be anything, any experience you have or want to have, and connecting it to how it shows up in the body.
Yeah. So when you work with clients and you start to help them program, right? Like, I mean, I think more of that, like this is our brains are an operating system for how we manage the world. And the operating system has a kink in it, which is the coming back to the trauma experience. And that's a program that it's running. So, do you ever have clients who are like, I can't stop that program? That program is not, but that's what happened to me. That's what I know. Like, I know in my experience, I have clients that aren't ready to take the steps necessary to shift what's going on. So how do you handle that?
We start really small.
Okay.
So if someone were to say, like, that's just my life, that's just what happened to me. That's my experience. I'm never going to change.
Yeah.
If they're really augured into that, maybe we're not the best fit. But we do start with, what would the opposite of that be?
Mm-hmm.
Are you open to the possibility that that could be true? Maybe not for you, but
Yeah.
is it true for other people?
Uh-huh.
And then really going into, if you could feel into that possibility 1%, where
Mm-hmm.
might that little like pinprick of that belief live in your body? And that's where we start, especially if people are really feeling like this is never going to change for me.
Right.
Can you be open to the possibility? And that's really where we start, because if I were to try to tell them you're wrong or present this like counter argument, that might be unbelievable to them. And we're not going to get anywhere if I try to convince them.
Yeah.
Even if they believe it in their brain and in their mind, it's going to take a little bit of time for us to introduce ideas and experience that are going to really counterbalance that deeply held belief in their body. So
Yeah.
it takes time, and it's small. We start small.
No, we have to start small. I am quoting James Clear of Atomic Habits all the time, that we need to start with these tiny little micro habits. And so I'm not asking you to make a big change. I'm asking you to start by just noticing. Like, that's probably what you do too. Just notice how you're feeling when you are re-experiencing that trauma. And so that's the first step. So we have so much more to talk about, but it's about halfway through, and we're going to take a 30-second break for our sponsor, the New Streaming Network. We'll be right back. And we're back with Madisen Rose, our guest, the founder of Better Half to Whole. So I'm actually going to go to your title, to the name of your business and platform, Better Half to Whole. Tell us how you got there. How did you start that?
When I was thinking about what I wanted to convey with the name of my business, it really came down to the experience that I had gone through.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what do I want to say that's not just like divorce help? Because I was like, I wanted something else, even though I wanted it to be clear, but then all of those different things. And so I was sharing with my partner at the time. This is someone I was with after I had gone through my divorce, and really sharing about that transformation of identity,
Mm-hmm.
because I was so committed to being the better half. And
Wow.
I did not want to get divorced. And so I was like, I am married for life. But then that obviously didn't happen. And so I really talked about the identity shift, from going from being someone's better half to being whole on my own.
Yeah.
And that's really where the name came from.
That's great. I love that. And it's so interesting, because when I saw your title, I wasn't thinking of I'm your better half. I was thinking, I'm now half a couple, but I'm going to be a whole person. But it's so interesting, because both of those things make sense in the context of the work that you do. Because when you have been in a couple, you feel like you're missing a part when you get divorced. And you don't know necessarily, or you don't remember how to be whole on your own. And I feel like that's the work that you do. You teach women that it is okay to be on your own. Like, you don't need to be part of a couple to be valuable, complete, and all of that. So, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like after going through my divorce was really when I feel like I discovered or like revealed, it became clear to who I was because I was so connected to being a partner that
Mm-hmm.
there were so many things I didn't even know about myself until after I got divorced because I was so focused on the we. Like,
Yeah,
and I grew up in a big family. That was like part of how I was raised was thinking about being a wife and a mom in the future and not so much about the other aspects of my life because the marriage was really central to what
yeah,
life was going to look like. So after I got divorced, it was like, well, what do I want now? Because this isn't central to my life in this moment because that's gone now. And
yeah,
so that's really where um, I learned so much about myself and really for the first time felt like I was allowed or invited to have preferences, to have dreams and goals that weren't shared or connected with a partner.
that's powerful. That's really powerful. So how does that intersect with the trauma, right? Like, so this idea that I I can create something that is whole on my own, and certain experiences are going to remind my body of something different. So how does that intersect?
Mhm. One of the 4 survival patterns is called fawn,
Mm,
and that can look like codependence. It can look like people pleasing. It can look like self abandonment. It can look like no boundaries. And um, that's really where I was and had lost my sense of self.
mhm,
And so I have seen it come up in other relationships
mhm.
where I am acquiescing or catering to the other person because wanting to maintain a connection and wanting to maintain love when really I'm abandoning myself. And so it comes up not just in relationships with a partner, but it has shown up for me in friendships, in business, in uh, trying to get a gym to cancel something and refund my money, uh, which then I have to speak up. And so it could be one experience in the relationship that was traumatic, but then also it shows up later in life and having to relearn that same lesson over and over again until I get enough practice where it doesn't feel so effortful every time.
Right. Well, it's about creating these new neural pathways. Neuroplasticity is something that I have learned in these last 5 years, and it's so powerful because so often you hear, a leopard can't change their spots, people don't change. There, once you have a habit, it's yours to keep. And that messaging can feel very real. And it can also be reflected in your life because we all develop patterns and habits that are our defense mechanisms. I mean, we were served by the fawning response, that kept us safe to a certain extent, but only to a certain extent. And it required us to diminish other aspects of ourselves. So recognizing that quality, and some of us, look, being the caretaker, being the accommodator, being the one who, doesn't make the biggest waves, that might feel like a superpower. And yet we forget to look at what is the cost of the superpower. And I think that's what you're really talking about.
Yeah. At what time does it no longer serve you?
Right.
And I totally relate to that because I was like the low maintenance wife
Mm-hmm.
and the one that said yes to whatever, was very chill. But then how that got interpreted, I believe,
Yeah.
came now thinking about it and reflecting back on it, I think it came across as apathy or that I didn't really care because I was so laid back and so chill and yet deeply emotionally invested and I stayed quiet. And
Mm,
so I am having this whole internal experience, even though on the outside it looks like I'm cool, I'm good, whatever you want. And there was so much dissonance between my
right.
internal and external experiences.
Yeah. No, I can totally understand that because um, it's part of who we are as humans that we put on a mask for what's going on to the outside world. And that that mask sometimes we're putting it on for ourselves too. And I think the work you do with the somatics helps take off the mask so we could actually feel what we're feeling and then learn how to adapt in a different way. So we're renegotiating our trauma response. And that's powerful. That's powerful. Um, what do you think is one thing that is often overlooked when someone is recovering from divorce?
We talked a little bit about this at the very beginning, but that your experience is daily
Mhm,
of the divorce or the relationship change is ever present.
mhm,
And I think that some people, and this is similar to lots of different experiences of grief or loss, but people move on with their lives. And it might feel like, oh, that was 6 months ago, to a friend, or that was last year, but you've been living in and experiencing it level 10 in your face every day. And so I think that oftentimes people, I don't think they intentionally forget,
mhm.
but I don't think that, or I know their experience of the relationship ending is different because it wasn't as personal.
Yeah, yeah. I know that in my experience, I it took a long time for me to get to the point where I could say, "We're we need to get divorced." And around the same time, I also entered into a new relationship, and that I felt like that was answering all of my problems. And I was feeling that love that I thought I had been missing. And, you're craving it when you feel like you've been unloved and someone else showers you with love. You may not I wasn't looking for, narcissistic red flags at that moment. Um, but when that relationship ended, I think I felt the pain of loss for both relationships because I had never really allowed myself to experience the loss when it was real. Like I was there are stages anticipating what it's going to be like to say we're done and then starting that process is one level, but actually going through it is another. And going through it when you feel like you have a landing pad is one thing. And then when the landing pad disappears, then your body is un, you know, feels a release of all those emotions. So for you and your clients, if someone is flooding with that kind of release, how do you walk them through it?
Well, thank you for sharing that, Lisa, because it is real and it does feel really good when you feel like you haven't received that in your one relationship and then, oh, it's here now. And it is feeding you and filling you in some way because you were, at least for me, desperate for it and
Yeah,
like yearning for it and longing for it. And so it's like, oh my gosh, it's here. And so that can feel like such a relief and also such a significant difference.
yeah,
So it feels like this jump to something you've been wanting.
yeah.
Um, a lot of my clients are in the either like they've recovered from divorce, or they haven't recovered. They are recovering from divorce. And so if someone is experiencing some like extremes,
Hmm.
um, I I would encourage them to slow down
Okay.
because at least in my experience going through divorce, afterwards I just felt like cracked open and very sensitive and very permeable to any kind of love and attention or support. And I ate it up because I needed it also. And that felt stabilizing and safe. And so I think it depends person to person. Some people going from one relationship to the next right away works out
Yeah.
and can be a beautiful thing in supporting someone healing and recovering. And it can be a beautiful thing. If someone is going to another relationship immediately, it could also be looked at like the flight response where you're avoiding and distracting and trying to put distance between yourself and your pain because you don't want to feel pain. You only want to feel comfort.
Yeah.
And so we would really slow it down and get curious about what is this giving you in the relationship? And can you get it elsewhere? Do you want to? And then also giving people time and space to have new experiences that are not harmful to them.
Right.
Um, and sometimes they're not. Sometimes it can be a beautiful, loving thing, and then it ends, and you try again
Yeah.
and learn and see what happened in the body, what happened in your life, and not it's nothing is all good or all bad.
Right. Right. I completely agree. And I think that even if a, you know, sometimes the advice that we hear is that you shouldn't get in a new relationship right away. Like, that's not what you should do. But I steer clear from the shoulds because it's different for every person. And you learn from that. And even feeling the pain is a learning experience. So, so having a guide to help heal the process when it's overwhelming is what you do. And that's really powerful. So, what I wanted to also ask you is, um, what tools do you offer to your community to help them get started? What do they need to think about first?
The awareness and noticing
Hmm.
of what's happening in the body is really the first step. Can we slow down enough to pay attention
Hmm.
to what's happening? And it's not that someone needs to spend an hour in meditation doing body scans over and over and over again, because we have to start small and in a place that's tolerable.
Yeah.
And so we really start with the awareness.
Hmm.
And that is something someone can do on their own. And this is something I learned from my mentor, it's Lauren Zoller, and it's a somatic check-in. And you
Yeah.
can do it if you want to set timers, you can do it 3 times a day or do it when you brush your teeth morning and night. To
Hmm.
just pause for 30 seconds and notice, what do I feel in my body right now? What am I doing? And
Hmm.
that's it. Without judgment, you don't need to force yourself to shift or change, but we're just noticing and bringing awareness to what's happening in the body. And the shifts and the changes and the opposites, all of that can come later.
Yeah.
But there are a few different like regulation techniques that I can share with people for grounding and orienting to your space, noticing what's happening in the body. But really the most profound work that I have seen is when someone dedicates themselves to a 3 month, it's 12 weeks for an
Yes.
hour And we can really get into the thing underneath the thing underneath the thing,
Yeah.
because there's so much that is connected to
Yeah.
our childhood, connected to our beliefs about ourselves. And you're not going to get into those in a 2-minute orienting
Right.
practice,
Right.
but you
But
have to start somewhere.
you have to start somewhere. And I know you offer a do-it-yourself course that you're offering free. So we're just about at the end of our time together. Please share with the audience what this offer is and how they can get in touch with you.
Yeah, the free mini course is called Divorced Now What? And this is really for the person who might be having a hard time getting through the days, and they just maybe have said to themselves, I need someone to just tell me what to do. And it's very simple practices around getting through the day, putting some structure into your support network,
Mm-hmm.
and then also beginning to think about, what do you enjoy? What do you want to do with your time? And
Mm-hmm.
getting some things structured and scheduled, which is not that sexy, but it will help you experience a sense of progress.
Yeah. And I know that one of the things I share with my clients is like time block, like set aside time in your calendar for specific things. And when you do that, you are much more likely to accomplish them instead of sort of kicking it down the road. So, so I love that. And this is something that I know you had an awareness that you needed to offer this complimentary. So
Yes.
yeah, so that's really amazing. Um, if someone wants to get a more intensive program with you, how can they get in touch with you?
The best way is going to be either through my website, which is betterhalf2whole.com, or on my Instagram, which is the same, betterhalf2whole. And I share a bunch of free resources there about my own story, but then also things people can do to support their own somatic healing, and information about my programs is there too.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you so much. This was a great interview and it went way too fast. And I know we could talk for a really long time, um, but I'm glad that I could bring you here and share your wisdom with the Dishing on Divorce community. So thank you so much, Madison.
Thank you, Lisa.
My pleasure. And for my audience, you know, you can always reach me at lisa@lzlcoaching.com, or just go to the website, lzlcoaching.com, and you can book a complimentary discovery call. So until next time, this is Lisa Lisser, and have a great week.